I rise in strong support of this private member's bill, and I thank the Honourable Leader of the Opposition in this place for pursuing this issue with the passion that she has. At its most fundamental level, this amendment bill seeks to shift the burden of criminality away from those engaged in prostitution and onto those who exploit them. This Nordic model, this equality model that was pioneered in Sweden in 1999, has also now been adopted in Norway, Iceland, Finland, Canada, France, Ireland, Northern Ireland and Israel. Most recently, the United States state of Maine has adopted partial decriminalisation, making it the first US state to do so. The Nordic model, the equality model, champions empowerment, amplifies prostituted women's voices and guarantees robust support from our law enforcement and social welfare agencies to ensure that those who are in the grip of this exploitive industry have a clear path to exit. The Honourable Nicola Centofanti aptly summarised its essence in August last year. This bill pledges comprehensive assistance inspired by proven models. From psychological support to financial assistance, medical care to legal aid, it aims to facilitate a smooth transition for those aspiring a different path. And the bill ensures prostituted women will not be disadvantaged in the labour market should they have a criminal conviction as a direct result of their prostitution. Prior to addressing the bill in detail, let's consider the global perspective. Following in Sweden's footsteps, Norway adopted the Nordic model in 2009. A study conducted in 2014 by the Norwegian government found that the model had reduced the demand for sex, leading to a decrease in the volume of sex work and a significant reduction in human trafficking. Similarly, in Iceland, where the Nordic model was also implemented in 2009, there has been a marked decline in the visible sex trade. The Icelandic police have reported that a number of individuals involved in street prostitution has decreased, and there has been a significant drop in the number of foreign women travelling to Iceland for sex work. In Canada, where some aspects of the Nordic model have been adopted in 2014, there has been a shift in public perception. The focus has moved from viewing those engaged in prostitution as criminals to seeing them as victims needing support and protection. Furthermore, in Northern Ireland, the adoption of the Nordic model in 2015 led to a 61% reduction in the number of online sex ads, indicating a decrease in the demand for paid sex. France, which adopted the Nordic model in 2016, conducted a review in 2018, and the findings were promising. There was a 30% reduction in prostitution clients, showcasing the model's effectiveness in deterring buyers. And late last year, Germany began pushing to overturn their own decriminalised prostitution laws to reverse their reputation as Europe's biggest brothel. The German Chancellor, Olaf Scholz, has expressed a desire for greater legal restrictions on the purchase of sex, which he considers unacceptable and a practice that shouldn't be normalised. South Australian parliaments have long debated the issue of whether to fully decriminalise prostitution in this state. Those many attempts have so far failed to deliver meaningful change in this area, and we are subsequently stuck with the status quo, which I know many members, past and present, are not satisfied with, and of course, which does nothing to improve the many issues faced by those engaged with prostitution in South Australia. To my understanding, this is the first time we have had genuine opportunity to deliver meaningful reform in this space. The Nordic model presents us with a compromise between progressive, conservative and libertarian perspectives on how society should legislate prostitution. Past attempts at the progressives' preferred option of full decriminalisation has failed. Given the current makeup of the Legislative Council, should that model get put forward once more, it would similarly end in failure. This amendment bill in the Nordic model, or the equality model that is centred on, presents us with an opportunity to move forward and to overcome the status quo so that many members and those in the community agree that it is no longer tenable. The bill before us today has 4 core components, namely, criminalises the act of offering money or other benefit for the return of sexual services, decriminalises the current sanctions that apply to those offering sexual services, criminalises the act of enabling or profiting from prostitution of another person, and provides a comprehensive suite of support services for victims of sexual exploitation. In doing so, the bill will deliver on a number of important principles that are at the heart of this issue. Firstly, it will drive down demand for prostitution. When the buyers of sex become criminals rather than those who offer the services, it will restrict access and reduce interest from those considering the purchase of sex. This was shown to be the case in Sweden, where a 50% reduction of street prostitution resulted within 10 years of its enactment. As demand winds down, it follows that the market for purchasing sex will also contract, and subsequently, a second principle is achieved. The exploitation of vulnerable people will also decrease. Those in favour of full decriminalisation make the argument that complete legalisation of prostitution will empower women and that it is their right to pursue prostitution if they choose. Well, the issue here is, of course, that many women, I say women because the data suggests that they form up to 95% of sex workers, are not provided with a clear-headed choice for this matter. Vulnerability, exploitation, drug and alcohol abuse, poverty, bullying, standover tactics, control, these are all factors that reduce the agency of women who become involved and who are forced into prostitution, and increases the difficulty of leaving the industry where they wished to do so. And the argument, Mr. President, that it is right to be able to purchase sex is ultimately a misogynist one. And I have no doubt in my mind that there is a cohort of women who have experienced little, if any, of these negative aspects of prostitution and who consider that they have made a rational decision to enter the trade, but I am not convinced, however, that they are either the majority of sex workers or that their considered choice to become sex workers overrides the well-known injustices that occur to many victims involved in this trade. And the honourable members here tonight have spoken about the rights of people with disability, that somehow a person's disability can trump someone else's bodily autonomy, that somehow someone with a disability can, through prostitution, essentially cause a disability in someone else through the trauma that many of these sex workers come to hold and to bear throughout their life. Should this bill pass, the third principle will also be achieved by offering a further step towards gender equality as it dismantles a system of objectifying women for male pleasure. Make no mistake, this bill stands as our vehement opposition to the objectification of women. Women involved in prostitution will be provided with greater agency to leave the trade, as they will now have support of police and social services where they were previously treated as criminals and dealt with accordingly. As the Honourable Nicola Centofanti passionately referred to, arguably the most important provision of this bill, sex workers will be offered comprehensive support and access to government and non-government services. Accessing a whole range of services will become easier, and addressing any physical and mental health issues faced by these women will be central to that. Exactly what type of support services will be offered will ultimately be up to the responsible minister, but there are many intentional examples to pick and choose from. The French model, for example, offers a unique and holistic approach to helping sex workers leave the industry. Their exit strategy involves collaboration with NGOs and social service agencies to provide counselling, psychological support and social reintegration for those wishing to leave. Additionally, financial assistance, healthcare, legal aid, education and training and housing are also available to make it easier for sex workers to transition into different forms of work. It will be up to this Parliament, Mr. President, and state governments to decide on the final makeup of these services. This bill provides the framework of principles which will inform what is ultimately to be the South Australian model of partial decriminalisation of prostitution. Considering these global success stories, Mr. President, it is evident that the Nordic model offers a balanced and effective approach to addressing the challenges associated with prostitution. It recognises the issue's complexities, focuses on reducing demand while providing robust support mechanisms for those caught in the exploitive web of what those who seek to downplay the harm caused by it deem sex work. It is not work, it is the objectification of women and sometimes men as a means to an end for sexual gratification. Mr. President, I want to thank the many survivors of prostitution who have shared their deeply personal stories, which has led to the culmination of this important bill. I want to thank Amanda from WEEP, Maz, Ali Marie, Jonathan, Claire, Natalia, Christopher. I want to also thank my colleagues, the the Honourable Michelle Lensink and the Honourable Tammy Franks, who have long advocated for reform in this space, although I know we do not agree. Mr. President, the Nordic model offers a proven, effective and compassionate approach to addressing the challenges of prostitution. It is time for South Australia to join the global community in adopting this transformative model. I urge all members to support this bill. Let's make history this evening.